Hello everyone, this is the LEGO Old Trafford Manchester United Stadium set. And this video is being brought to you at the behest of a Patreon supporter who has asked to simply go by Josh. This was his high-level Patreon reward to pick out a set for me to review. A nice big one, and I very much appreciate it. So 100% credit goes out to Josh for the fact that this video exists at all. This set is massive. Over 3,800 pieces. It took me 8 hours to assemble this. Now, I myself am not a football or soccer fan, so I could have gone online and done some Googling, spent a lot of time on Wikipedia making notes to be able to explain to you, well, this wing was actually worked on in whatever year, and this part down here was actually a tribute to such and such. I don't know any of that stuff. And I'm not going to pretend that I do. So I'm going to be looking at this from the perspective of a LEGO fan looking at a massive LEGO set that took 8 hours to put together and is kind of a triumph of LEGO design. There are a lot of very interesting techniques that were used in this, some a little bit sketchy. Some parts were very engaging for me. Some parts were fairly boring and repetitive. The set comes with a handful of nano figures to represent statues, but for the sake of scale, just to kind of put things into context here, a minifigure looks enormous compared to this, and nano figs are also rather oversized. I mean, the real stadium is itself huge. It has a seating capacity of, I think, upwards of 80,000. So yeah, this is really truly a micro to nanoscale build, and still it ends up being rather large and massive too. It has a lot of weight to it, and for that reason I'm very glad that the designer built it really in 3 parts. So you can see just little gaps of how it separates out. I'm gonna pull these apart and put them back together, and then I'll show you what they look like individually in a minute. But just while I'm here at this angle talking about that, I wanted to point that out. They're not even connected with studs or anything. They're just kind of guided into place. But I wanted to make sure that you could see this from a lower angle, because I think that's a valuable one that you won't see very frequently in pictures and such. And if you do buy this and build it, you still probably won't see it from this interesting angle all that frequently, because you yourself as a huge figure, a real human being, will be above it. It'll be mostly on a desk or a table. It has that kind of depth to it that prohibits placing it on most shelves, because just most shelves are not this deep, and you do need to have a full surface underneath the vast majority of this because of those separate parts. You can't just have something that goes just past the center of gravity, because then the end part will just fall off. This is my favorite end down here, my favorite part to look at. Just I like the modernized kind of the window areas on it. And there's one of those nano figs that represents a statue in black. They've got a few of them put up on this United Trinity build here that represents a few of the players from the 60s that did great things for the club. These are elevators off on the sides, got the little clock right there. And this is a nice looking entrance over here as well. This has a bunch of printed pieces, and it also uses a lot of stickers. I will show you the leftover pieces and the spent sticker sheet when I'm done, but the piece that you'll find printed most throughout this is this one down here. It's a 1x4, and it's printed on just one side. That color is medium nougat, and I forgot to check how many of those pieces are included, but they're used all around for detail. You've got the team transport bus over here. Let me just briefly move that out of the way as well, so you can see a little bit more of the elevator entrance / exit over there. And while we're looking at that, that's just 2 stickers on 2x4 tiles that go up like so. The other set like that was all the way back over here. So since we are at the lower level, but yeah, that's pretty much it for small details. There are a lot of little things that go together to create macro level texture. Like all these cantilevered arms, these are things that were very very tiresome if you don't like to do stuff that's super repetitive. It can feel cathartic, like if you're listening to a podcast or some nice music or watching TV or something while building this. This is the type of thing where you can just go on to autopilot, to make those sets. There's another set of those on the other side as well. These kind of web-shaped supports over the top are kind of their own thing. Not a lot of repetition there, but then tons of repetition here. I took the time to line up pieces that, for instance, the ones down at the end, those gray pieces that have the hole on just one side. I lined all those up so the holes were all on one. And it just takes extra time, and that's entirely up to you. But ultimately, this is very valuable detail, even though it's using a lot of really small pieces. When you look at the whole thing, you stand back. This is absolutely critical and adds a lot to the seriousness of the appearance of the entire set as a display model. So what I'm going to do now is take these sections apart. I'll first take the front one off and see how it just slides out. That's because they use Technic connectors, but they're all these axle pins with only the axle parts sticking out. They go into Technic bricks, and you have no actual pins there. So all of that just slides in, slides out. If you want to lock this in, supply your own Technic pins. It would have been nice if they actually included some Technic pins if you really wanted to lock this together, but it's not designed to have good mechanical strength in there. You would want to use a lot of pins, possibly some extra long ones, and really take care with it, because there's not a lot of strength in the floor going from one section to the next. Each of these sections is very sturdy, very secure itself, but going between multiple of them would get a little bit questionable, I would say. So Sir Bobby Charlton stand, I hope I pronounced that even properly. And this will let you see just how the stands really are built. Lots of the textured bricks. I need to look that up before I get to the end of this to give you a number, but so many of them that get stacked up. This is the type of thing where you can see this is built on the side. So you start from, this is the bottom in this case. This is the top, so there's a tile up there. At this end, this type of thing where you get into a rhythm and you build up a layer, you put down the white plate, build up a layer, or two layers actually, white plate, 2 layers, and then things change. So you need to make sure you don't go too much on autopilot for that assembly. Small stickers used throughout this, and then some rather large ones to represent the lettering on the stands, built into the stands. I like all the clear area, the transparent sections that represent skylight, lets light actually get down there. Basically works just like the architecture does on the real thing, letting light get down to the stands while still providing some protection from weather. And I like these parts that this piece, I think, was first used. I think the first set that used that, was it this set or was it the Fiat 500? It may actually have been this one. It's a new design, a new mold that they did for that one that has a minimum amount of cross material in there, so you get the maximum actual transparency. That works out nicely. I really like the top parts. One thing to beware of, another thing to beware of while putting this together, the stands get connected with clips onto bars that are set up previously to their assembly. And some of them, as you go around different parts of the whole build, some of them will fit in nicely and they just kind of guide themselves in. Some of them require a little bit of finagling, and you have to get just the right angle. You might even need to feel like you're bending things apart just a bit to get a little extra space. This is definitely an advanced build. This is not something that younger kids, I think, will enjoy, even those who are used to doing more complex things. This is something where you really need to slow down and take care. It feels like a snap-together advanced model for adults, like a static plastic model, snap-together style, but designed for adults who are really going to take a lot of care. And some of the building techniques, like how these side sections, there's actually certain thickness in there. There's a spacer in between, ultimately gets connected together with an axle on each corner There's some parts where you have those doubled up. It's weird. And it just felt odd to me, just unusual to me. Let me go ahead and turn this upside down. You can see that the base is nice and captured together with plates on top of the Technic frame that's inside of there, and plates on top of that in turn. The next major section has the actual playing field, and that does use printed parts, thankfully, for these huge designs. And I'll separate these out. Again, see that just slides apart. I believe these stands can also be pulled apart like so. It just shows you a sample of one smaller stand build. This is really nice. Like, I like just looking at this just from an aesthetic perspective, from an architectural perspective. These cantilevers are really cool. Not 100% accurate here with the Lego model, but pretty good. And I appreciate the amount of work that goes into assembling them. I can't even imagine the design process for this model. Again, so many interesting techniques, strange uses of parts in some places. And you see how, like, this upper stand sections, this whole subassembly here has plenty of room to fit in, but then the lower one, actually, was it the other way? It's been a little bit since I put this together. Yeah, this one rotates in. If I remember correctly, it was this one that was a little bit difficult to get past this upper line of windows here, the VIP section windows. I think like VIP box and TV and such. So, just getting it to angle in just right so it slides in. And then there are a couple of clips, and you can see them underneath in white that come out of the stand section. And then this just slides down right behind the row of panels here. But this just looks really nice. There are some funky colored pieces used inside of this. Most of them you do not see at all once the assembly is complete. Some of them occasionally from some angles you do, though. Depends on the angle you're looking at. Like here I can start to see a little bit of yellow, but for the most part this looks pretty proper. That's a cool shape of piece. I don't remember how long that's been around, but I haven't seen it very much. The pitch itself, this is nice. It's simple though. Not a lot of pieces used here. On the underside, look at that. Really, really simple construction. Yet, there's not a whole lot of flex in there. Like, there's a good amount of strength. The alignment of the lines isn't that great. There's a little bit of inconsistency as well. You can see that the center section here has better printing. Like, that's a nice bright white, and then this is not quite so. From a reasonable distance, it doesn't look that bad to me personally. And I did try rotating these around, assembling them in slightly different ways. I have heard from just kind of through the grapevine that some people have had these not line up well at all. It seems like this piece right here in particular is the alignment, the biggest alignment error that I got. But in general, I feel like I was pretty fortunate here, and I really like these. Those are printed 1x2 panel pieces, just print on one side. And I didn't even realize that those could be attached that way, but it totally makes sense. It's actually a legal building and attachment technique, especially these days. And it works. It does not do any damage to the parts, and it works out. So this section over here, was this the one I was just looking at, or was it this one? Doesn't really matter. They're almost identical, just mirrored, just with different stickers set up. And where the stickers go, of course, they've used just 1x2x2 bricks in there. So you're able to place a larger sticker over it rather than using the smaller pieces that just would have resulted in a lot more gaps between parts. So that's actually not too bad, if you ask me. As always, be careful with your alignment. Look at it in advance, plan, test before actually putting the final stickers down. This is a good look back here. This also feels a little bit more classic to me. And then finally, here's the section that includes the Sir Alex Ferguson stand, which holds the most people of any of the sections. It is a 3-level setup. So you've got one level here, and then another one that's tucked up underneath the awning. You can start to see it right up there. And again, you build most of the stands basically the same way, but there is variation from one to the next. Obviously, these ones that have the stickers within them have to be done with a little bit of extra care. There is some variation for that. This is pretty heavy. You ultimately build up kind of the frame for it underneath, and then start adding in the stands, and then do the entire roof section separately. So these are like adornments that are just added on, like garnishes on top. This is a massive roof covering subassembly, which starts with the center section, and then you do left and right. They're mirrored. You can actually do them at the same time, as long as you just mirror the techniques that you're using. And ultimately, that just kind of, they just flap up. They're angled. You've got hinges here and here. So those have an angle to them, which you can see directly from the front. And this just settles down. These just settle into place, and then it all gets held together with the architectural elements, the structural elements that actually do work, that actually do line up properly. These corner ones don't do anything. Those are just for look, but these actually do tie everything together. This is one place where, from a reasonable angle, you will see some colors that you probably don't want to see. That yellow in there, I don't think that is right to see, and it does stand out to me. I would rather not see that color. I think there was an area also where I could see some blue in a seam. I've not actually seen it just now when I did the assembly. It might have been on one of the other sections and I missed it now. But that's the worst right there. That's as bad as it gets. If you have light coming in from this angle and you look at it from this side, that's where you'll see something that's a little bit off. Not that big of a deal, though. Another thing that you could potentially complain about, if you're nitpicking like I am right now to that degree, is just seeing the anti-studs here. That's really, honestly, not that big of a deal. If that absolutely bugs you and you really like this model and you want it to look as good as possible, you can actually redo that using, for this entire layer of plates down here, put this down as a temporary, build on top of it, and then come back and take these lower plates off and replace them with some inverted tiles. And you can actually, I believe, make that smooth. But here there's a lot of depth, and this really shows the depth down below, just how far that goes in. You can just imagine little people going back down in there. You can see the little printed bricks, the 1x4s, once again. And they even have channels for people to walk within there. So areas that should not be blocked off actually are not. It's pretty impressive, actually. And around here you can see some of that. I mean, just, you can see my finger through that little corner there. So that's really nice. Like, this is definitely done better than it needed to be. There's a lot of reverence that's given to the real structure, I'd say. A lot of care. Well, there are so many shortcuts that easily could have been taken that were not. Now you can see, if you shine light through these window sections, you can see some of the internal build of this, and there are some slightly weird colors in there, but you really need to have the light right on it to see that. And also it helps to have this open on the other side. Once you bring in some of the side sections, not as much light is going to get through there, and it really doesn't show up that much. It looks like there is some level of detail inside, but it doesn't bother me personally, even when I'm trying to nitpick at it. So again, a good amount of care, and this is absolutely a very solid, respectable display model. Again, a very advanced build, though, requires some patience, requires some serious time, and some care with some of the assemblies that go together in odd ways, not unconventional ways. These are the leftover pieces, and for a set that has almost 1,300 pieces, to have just this leftover is really telling. It shows you just how few really, really small parts were used in this, because only the smallest pieces that are equivalent to 1x1s get spares officially from Lego. Fortunately, there is one of these precious nanofigs in black as a spare. And I forgot to mention along the way that I did very much appreciate the use of these 1x1 quarter round tiles to fill in the corners or the joints on hinge plates, horizontal hinging plates, where you get that that odd opening area. They used these to fill in some of that space to make some of the corners look nicer than they would have in the old days. Now the sticker sheet, I don't know if that's going to fit on screen all at once, will it? Oh, it does. Yeah. Okay, cool. It does. Yeah, when was the last time you saw a sticker sheet like that from Lego? That is massive. I mean, this looks like, again, I previously made a reference to plastic static modeling. This looks like a static model, a large advanced static models sticker sheet or decal sheet. It was a lot. But obviously you can see a lot of these were just, the wording on the stand. So a lot of this bulk just went into that over here as well. And then a lot of these were just repeated, the manutd.com banners all around the base. It makes sense. Like the stickers that were used here definitely make sense to me, and they easily could have required us to apply even more by requiring the pitch to be stickered up and by not using those 1x4 printed medium nougat pieces used around the outside. So it could have been worse, but it's still a lot. It doesn't feel like too much to me, honestly, for what you get, what you see in the finished product, but it's still a lot. The set sells for $300 US, which gives it a pretty dang nice price to part ratio when you're looking at just shy of 3,900 pieces. And I think that the building time of approximately 8 hours, not going super, super fast, but not going particularly slow either, says a lot about the value. I almost have to think maybe like a price per building minute metric might be interesting to look at over time, since price to part as an indicator of value is not the most reliable thing because different parts have different value. Tiny little stud piece compared to one of these large windscreens, not the same value there. And similarly with price to mass, price to weight, we're not buying like bags of ABS pellet here. Lego does. That's a very small cost compared to the full cost of producing these sets. The mass, the amount of plastic that's there, the weight of it doesn't really matter to us. It's like, what do you ultimately get? Total experience and finished product. And I think that price per minute of building is a really interesting thing, because this feels like, compared to Lego sets, just generally speaking, stuff, other stuff that I've reviewed, this feels like I got a good deal. Like there's so much work that I was able to put into this, or that was required to be put into this, that indicates just how complex it is and how much stuff is really here, how much you get in total. That it feels right to me. It feels good. The overall size, it's not huge. It's not tremendous in its total size. It is deep enough. I think it's 15 inches or 39 centimeters is the depth measurement, that you do need to be concerned about where you will display this or where you'll store it. Because again, a lot of people will want to display things on a shelf, and a lot of shelves aren't deep enough to accommodate that. I did mention earlier that I was going to look up the number of the textured 1x2 bricks in red used for the stands. The number is 345. 345 of those that were stacked almost always double high and going between 3 and 8 wide, is it? Something like that. A lot of those pieces. But overall, I think this is a very successful set, a triumphant design. Could it have been better? Maybe, to look at. But I like the level of complexity. Definitely required some concentration. A lot of care went into its design. Clearly, a lot of it was interesting. It's definitely an advanced model. I think this is the type of subject matter that would draw in a lot of fans of, like, specifically Man United in this case, who aren't even into Lego. They would want to take this on as a adult toy project, and a lot of folks, I think, that who aren't used to Lego would have a lot of difficulty with this. Just some of it can be a little bit weird, unless you already have experience with like model building. Like if you're good with your hands in the first place, then you'll be okay. But if you're not, and you don't have experience with Lego, this is definitely gonna push your limits and try you a bit. In a good way, though, I think. You just really need to be careful with it. Thanks again to Josh, who really kind of savagely forced my hand on this, forced me to get this as his reward. Without his request, I would not have done it. This is not my cup of tea, but I really appreciate the opportunity, the request, and getting this into the queue, because I feel like I got a lot from this experience. I had no idea just how complex, how intricate, how interesting, how large this was going to be. It was a really cool experience. So big thanks to Josh, and any of you who appreciate seeing this set on this channel also can give a little thanks to Josh as well. Overall, lots of good feelings about this, and very few things, nitpicky things, can I say, really negative about it. There you go. Those are my thoughts. I did not do a pure build for this one because it was done in multiple sections, and I didn't want to have to worry about the sounds, but a speed build is coming up, so you can still see how the whole thing went together, and that is an accelerated speed build, since it's really like a model that's being built, as opposed to having lots of action features and things where people want to see things more slowly, and minifigure builds and stuff. So the speed build for this is sped up a lot more than most of my speed builds are, and I think that's appropriate. I think will look good to you without taking too much of your time to see it from end to end. You can check that out on my JANG Builds It channel if you want to. Thanks again to Josh. Thanks to all of you for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.